Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center giving you a look at our current Doppler radar picture across the southeast where you do see some showers and storms toward parts of Alabama and Georgia, especially with a little line there. As you look off toward east, more scattered accent is the story. So that's some good news for our local area in that we're not really seeing too much right now, and then the line's going to kind of weaken as it moves closer. So definitely some good news as we're looking ahead in toward that timeline here. So just kind of giving you guys that heads up as we go ahead now and go between some of our different sources. I know just trying to give you guys that full update here on this Thursday. Happy Veterans Day, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in, and just all those veterans watching out there. Thanks so much for your service. Very, very important, of course. And as we look here toward that weather forecast for that weekend ahead now, we're going to be seeing these temperatures falling down. Cool weather's on the way here, folks. We're going to be seeing, again, a little bit of rain, but those temperatures are probably the bigger story, Roy, because we're not expecting any severe weather locally, anything of that sort. I know we had some tornado warnings as we got further off toward areas there around the Arklatex, even closer toward the Arklamis as well this morning. Excuse me, but again, just going to continue to monitor the situation as we watch things here. I know we were watching tornadic action toward Tulsa, severe thunderstorms toward Dallas, but nothing extreme, Roy. And again, things have not really been severe at all today as we looked across the country. So that's some good news here for sure. Let me go ahead and pop on up that local radar view right now. I just had it up a moment ago, but just kind of see that those temperatures even a little bit clearer here. Pretty big numbers. You see these mid-60s on the board. I know I'm down to 65 where I'm at, the live reading towards dark. And these temperatures again going to be falling down. And as we take a look at the radar a little more in depth now, we'll go ahead and take off some of that information. You can see down toward Putnam County, we have some shower accident toward Interlochen. So this is getting there, it looks like, toward some of these different roadways like State Road 20 in there, Ossett Ward and Northeast Cedar Ward areas. This east of Nahana, I know river flood warning in play, and we're getting rain right over that river flood warning right there on Atkinson. This east of Nahana looks like some of the different roads involved include US 82. So again, just going to continue to watch this. This isn't producing that much rain, but still kind of interesting to note. Nonetheless, not even really sewn up into 1 hour totals, but getting some heavier rain toward Atkinson right now in eastern Brantley County, and again toward Putnam. Even Marion County, we're seeing some scattered shower accident as well. Not really seeing any lightning, it doesn't look like out there, and that's not really anticipated here as we look ahead. I know tomorrow, high school football playoff acts, so many games of importance, obviously, in the playoffs. Those games are winning, advance, or lose and go home. So very important. The weather looks pretty good. Could have an isolated shower or two in spots, but overall, probably a pretty similar picture to this, what we're seeing right now. Not a little bit less coverage tomorrow, and maybe Saturday toward Tallahassee. Not really expecting rain axing around, but as we look off toward the east, we could see some scattered showers for sure based on some of our model guidance, some of the higher resolution model guidance that we use. So let me now go ahead and take a look here at some of the different cameras across the region. We're going to go ahead and switch on over now towards St. Augustine. I know we're not doing that coastal flooding concern really anymore. As we look out there on the Weather Stem viewpoint on this Veterans Day, you do see here, that is a picturesque view though, really right now, as we get towards St. Johns County, and then as we get over towards Cedar Key, kind of go to a different coast. We'll bounce you from our east coast to the west coast here of Florida, and you kind of get an idea of what's going on. And you do see here pretty similar picture. Obviously, it's dark, so you're not going to see too many differences anyway, but it's kind of interesting to check out our east and west coast there of Florida. Now, we'll take you to my alma mater in Tallahassee, of course, to Florida State University, and you'll be able to see here a little bit different viewpoint, just the way the cameras set on up there as we're getting toward the nighttime hour. To know a big win for FSC basketball yesterday against Penn, and as we look ahead, a big game this weekend, Florida State, Florida in basketball, of course, that'll be in Gainesville, Miami, Florida State in football in Tallahassee. The weather there again looks pretty good for that in Tallahassee here as we do watch that trend line. Now we'll bounce away from this and tell you a weather history story right now. We have a couple weather history facts to get to here today because this is something that's kind of interesting, and looking over some more tornado records, it caught my eye, so I wanted to pull up the radar, but we're going to look back at what the radar looked like 26 years ago today in toward Tallahassee, because 26 years ago, 1995, we had a tornado touch down there around the Civic Center. Pretty interesting, to say the least. We'll go ahead and pop up our analyst computer right now because we have this over there so we can kind of review the situation. This is what the radar looked like there as we were getting toward around 11:30 or so that morning. I know we'll put this into motion as I read this off to you guys now. You kind of see what we're talking about. We'll just keep looping that around as I mentioned as we look here between about a 20-minute time frame between about 11:30 and 11:50. We did have a severe thunderstorm cause sporadic damage there from downtown Tallahassee across the east and north sides of the city, and an responded tornado that caused considerable damage. Again, this was on Veterans Day of 1995. We had an F1 tornado there that caused about $500,000 in damage. At one point, it was about 100 yards wide. Hundreds of mature pines and hardwoods were damaged or blown completely down, causing damage to many residences and apartment complexes. The Tallahassee Civic Center sustained considerable roof damage, but no serious injuries were reported, though several people reportedly received cuts and bruises. So it's just kind of interesting to see that here as we look back in weather history. Going back here on the radar, pretty cool. We can go back 26 years on the Doppler and see how things were. Granted, we don't have in this mode here because I had to put off the Jacksonville site. We couldn't get the Tallahassee site for this exact time, but I couldn't pull velocity for it, so we couldn't see the wind directions or the warning polygons, but at least giving you that radar visual. Just that's what it looked like 26 years ago. Today we had a bunch of tornado warnings that day toward the Big Bend, toward south, toward to there. Definitely a day that they'll remember, at least a few of those folks out that way, with the Civic Center being damaged there. I mean, I was out about 1 year old toward Texas, so I definitely don't remember it, but just interesting to look at some of the tornado database information from the National Weather Service in Tallahassee, seeing that, and then pulling the radar up, cross-referencing some of the different things there. And then one weather history thing I do remember, though, this was a year ago, so obviously something we should remember here as we go ahead and go back on over toward our graphics now here, because this will be talking about our Greek name list that we had last year. We're not using that anymore. We're using an alternative name list here now, but we'll go ahead and see if we can take the GR2 analyst off. I know I put that up there, and we'll go ahead and go over to this now. You see Ada there was the name we were dealing with last year. It had pretty substantial impacts towards South Florida, of course Central America. We had devastation down there. It was a hurricane. We kind of had maybe a hurricane above toward the Gulf of Mexico there at one point, but then as it moved closer there toward Florida and northern Florida in particular, we're talking about we're really seeing the conditions here weaken on out with this storm. We had storm surge toward Tampa, but North Florida, we just had a little bit of wind and rain. I mean, the nor'easter we had this past weekend more impactful than what Ada was toward North Florida, but still very unusual to get a tropical system this time of year, and we did have one of those here a year ago. Tonight, really approaching our area. Now we'll go ahead and look at the current name list here. You do see 2021 storm names. Check them all off. We'll go again to that next name list, but right now, no immediate concerns there. So that's the good news. Nothing for our area to worry about here. So that's great. You see Kate there crossed off. Now that was an interesting name back in 1985 because we actually had a hurricane hit Tallahassee, one of the worst ever. And we'll be talking about that as we look ahead in the timeline as we get toward that anniversary, very important anniversary here. I mean, really, as we're looking back, just because this storm, excuse me, that's really important in the weather history of Tallahassee being one of the worst ever. I mean, granted, we're not on a benchmark anniversary of 5 or 10 or 15, 20, which is going to be 36 years now as we look on back. But nonetheless, I mean, still something important to tell with that storm there hitting in 1985. We had a Kate this year, not an impact. But as we look over toward tropical climatology, you do see here the threat of tropical systems falling on down here now. You don't see systems too much as you get past November 10th. You see one little spike there, and it really drops off. That's great news. I mean, lower than what we see even really in later May. I mean, we've seen more recently after about May 15th, storms developing about every year, and don't really see that as you get later November. And the threat would be more toward the south anyway because of that core air mass coming in or further away from us. So that's the good news here. Not big threat to talk about there. Probably not going to have to talk about the tropics, hopefully, the rest of the year in terms of any type of local impacts. And we, of course, looking ahead toward those 2022 names here as we get further on down the line. But now you do see here the next 7 days in terms of that rainfall forecast, and not too much to worry about here, folks. Looking pretty nice across our area. Not seeing too much in the way of precipitation, so something to kind of enjoy when it's warmer. But unfortunately, as you'll see here, it's going to be pretty cool here for some of this action. Now, tomorrow night, mid-60s, that's not bad compared to what we dealt with last week for that Bradford game. We didn't really have the rain for it, but we had those temperatures in the 40s. I mean, it was frigid out there with that wind blowing. And then you can see, though, Newberry coming into town, the Newberry Panthers in the 1A playoffs. They're 5-5. They're the 6th seed in the part of the bracket. Bradford, the 3 seed. And whoever wins, hopefully, for my alma mater, it'll be Bradford here. I know I might have Newberry people watching too, but of course I want my alma mater, my Tornadoes to win. They had that homecoming parade that was postponed from last Friday today. It was a great parade there towards Stark. But as we look ahead, hopefully they can get that win. And if they win, they'll take on the 2 seed in this part of the bracket, Pahokee down there toward Palm Beach County. So that'd be a pretty long trip there for the Tornadoes. But mid-60s here. Can't look ahead in the playoffs, that's for sure, as you do have a 10% chance of rain. Not too terribly concerned about the weather. It should be about what you would want with football weather here this time of year, or any time of year for that matter. And then as we get toward Tallahassee on Saturday, 3:30 on ESPN, and Senior Day for the Noles here. Miami Hurricanes 5-4. They're really getting things going. New quarterback in there, really helping that team. I mean, and the team's really come together, it seems, with those wins recently. And then Florida State, though, unfortunately, not getting that win against NC State here. They also struggled there. Lost the game previous to that as well, but Clemson just not quite getting things done, unfortunately, but did have a pretty good defensive game, at least, as we do see mid-60s there, 10% chance of rain in the picture, mostly clear skies, the story here. So again, pretty good football weather here, it looks like, as well in the Big Bend of Florida. And now as we get toward that extended outlook, you do see here temperatures 77 tomorrow, 72 Saturday, cooling on down as we get towards Sunday, Monday, a little bit there with those lows in the lower 40s. So you need that jacket, as I kind of hinted at in our description here today of the video, kind of getting you guys to watch. You're going to be seeing temperatures here below average, those lows. 53.49, what we expect will be down closer to here, those lower 40s, maybe even some spots here as I kind of point things out. Maybe getting into the upper 30s, even rural spots like where I'm at. I know we got down to 37 here, even when we had the broader forecast for temperatures in the 40s. And that's what you would expect, because the water bodies are going to be warmer. You're going to have spots about this number here, and you're going to have spots like where I'm at, some rural spots, a little bit cooler here in our viewing circle of 62 counties. So we do lean towards Stark with some of these numbers a little bit, but still something to bear in mind as we cover a large area. So it's going to be a variety here, as you do see a woman trend later on in the timeline of 72 Wednesday, 75 Thursday here. So definitely seeing things that kind of gradually warm back up, but could have another system coming in. You see that rain chance here going back up. Now there's some discrepancy here. European model not really showing too much rain. The GFS, the latest run, I just looked at it. It's really piling in the rain and maybe storm accident on Thursday. We'll have to kind of monitor the trends of that. I kind of went with the lower end, leaning toward Euro, leaning towards some other guidance right now, but this number is going to either go up or down, I would think. Data would stay at 30 here as we look ahead now. Tomorrow, Saturday, though, 30%. I did raise Saturday because of some of our triple R guidance showing some accident toward North Central Florida. Tomorrow, though, 30%. Going to be more about scattered accident around the area. Again, not expecting severe weather. Not going to even have any lightning too concentrated, if at all, here across our region. But it is pretty warm, so I guess you can't rule that potential out here as we are watching things from the Weather Center. I think that pretty much does it here for this Thursday. I hope you have a great weekend. I know just making sure we covered everything we need to here. Let me go ahead and switch back on over to another viewpoint that we have. Bear with me here just a moment. I'll switch on back here. You can see what's happening on that radar picture. So I'll go ahead and move this down just a little bit here. You can see down toward Alachua, Putnam, Marion counties, some shower action on the board here, even some toward Brantley County, Glenn County as well. So we'll keep watching things here. Of course, you can do that as well at cloudweather.com/radar. It'll give you an interactive look at things here as we progress in the timeline. So make sure you check that out if you want to see what's going on. But again, thanks so much to all those veterans for their service. If you're watching, thanks so much for your service. Again, very important. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay dry out there when there's some showers around. Stay warm when it cools down here as well. As just enjoy things.